All right. One, two, three, four. Cool. All right. As we made it to the end of the road, speech four. Cool. Both cameras on. Let's see. All right. All right. Venerated Dictionary Webster's defines the. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Let me start my timer. Venerated Dictionary Webster's defines the word commemorate as to call to remembrance or to serve as a memorial. Now, deciding on who to commemorate for this presentation was not a difficult task. However, a 5-minute time frame is hardly sufficient to give an adequate commemoration of someone close to me, but I'll make an honest attempt at doing so. So tonight, I will be commemorating one of the largest influencers in my life, my grandmother, Sandra Urban. My grandmother, Sandra, she showed me the importance of a close family. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and we were very close, especially my grandmother. Having a large family dinner every Sunday, it was a common occurrence growing up. Now, we would also spend a lot of time together on family vacations, both local and out of state. During such events, our bond grew even closer. I will now explain how my grandmother has supported me during school activities during my younger years. So while in school, both of my grandparents supported me during extracurricular activities. Now, I just want to mention here that, I talk about both of my grandparents. They both played an equal role in the things that I speak about, but primarily focusing on my grandmother for the purposes of this presentation. Now, growing up, I lived about an hour away from my grandparents, but this distance, it never seemed to interfere with frequent visitations. My grandparents, especially my grandmother, she would make the drive multiple times per week. Growing up, I participated in many extracurricular activities through school. During baseball season, my grandmother, she was at every game, always cheering me on. During one particular game, she told me, if you hit a home run, I will give you $50. Now, back in the pre-inflation days, $50 take a kid a lot of places. So I hit a home run during that game, and she kept her promise. If there was a school function, my grandmother Sandra, she was always there, no questions asked. So let me now tell you how we maintained a close relationship even when I moved across the country. So when I was a junior in high school, my immediate family, we moved to Tacoma, Washington. It's quite a ways from here, about 3,000 miles to the northwest. This was one of the hardest moments in my life because I was moving far away from the people that I was closest to. Now, initially, I was worried that the closeness between my grandmother and I would fade, but it did not. My grandmother, Sandra, she made sure that we would stay close by buying me a cell phone. Now, I know this is a common thing for teenagers nowadays, but in 2006, I was definitely the cool kid. My grandmother also made sure that I had a plane ticket home during breaks from school, whether it be spring vacation or summer vacation. The following year after we moved, I graduated high school. Both of my grandparents, they flew out for the event. My grandmother was there, always present, cheering me on as she always did. Tacoma, Washington, it never really felt like home to me, and eventually I moved back to Ohio. My grandparents welcomed me with open arms and were excited for me to come home. My grandmother always made sure that I knew that I had a place in her house. Sadly, people don't live forever, not even your superheroes. So I'm going to share something with you that's very personal, something I don't really talk about. But sometimes you just can't hide away from the facts. In March of 2018, I was arrested and sentenced to serve 6.5 years in prison. What? Now, if you're doing the math, you're probably thinking that 2018 wasn't quite 6.5 years ago. The reason I'm here tonight is because I was wrongfully sentenced to prison, and my sentence was vacated in its entirety after I won my appeal in June of 2019. The reason I mention that is because something had happened in between that time. 3 months before I won my appeal, my grandmother, she unexpectedly died. So she never got to see me as a freed person. But during our last conversation, which was less than a week before her passing, she told me that she loved me, and she promised that she would be back to visit me again. This is a visitor's pass from that incident. This is the only thing that I have left of her that's sort of tangible, I guess. But It's just a reminder for me that she was always around. So sadly, that next visit, it never happened, but her love and support never vanished. Even in her final moments, it was perhaps stronger than ever. So my grandmother, Sandra Urban, she was my number one champion and supporter. I would be lying if I said I don't miss her a little bit, at least every day. She showed me the importance of having a strong family by making sure that we were together as often as possible, even through distance. That closeness never dissipated. So the best way that I can commemorate my grandmother, Sandra, is by living a life that she would be proud of. Thank you.
Oh, hold up. 1, 2, 3, 4.